Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. You guys knew I had to do one for this because this is a Marvel vs. DC fight. You guys know I love those. And this one is a very interesting one. Definitely one that I didn't think they would, ever do, but still an interesting one nonetheless. This time we've got Cable from Marvel going up against Booster Gold from DC. This is one of those fights that's definitely really odd, using two more minor comic book characters. And this is one of those fights that makes me think, they did this one before they did something like Ant-Man versus Atom, which is obviously much more of an obvious fight or a more requested fight. But regardless, I can't complain too much. I'm sure, someone in Death Battle really likes one of these characters or both of these characters. I'm sure they're excited to do this one. And I mean, I love all Marvel and DC characters in general, so I can't complain too much. In terms of my biases for these characters, I don't really have any. These are honestly characters that aren't really under my radar in terms of Marvel and DC. No offense to people who like them, I just don't particularly like or dislike either one of the characters. Regardless, though, I'm excited to predict this one and see what I think about it. So yeah, let's get into it. This fight is a really weird fight in the same way that Miles versus Static was a weird fight. And what I mean by that is that while these characters do have their similarities, of course the big one being that they're both time travelers who came to the present and stuff like that, really, they don't have that much in common in terms of their powers and abilities. When it comes to what they can do, they are very different from one another, which means that the real question isn't trying to find out who has the advantages where. That's pretty obvious, or at least to me, it seems pretty obvious where the advantages lie. Of course, I could be getting stuff wrong. But the bigger question is which advantages are on a grander scale, and which advantages are really going to help more in the fight. And also, like Miles versus Static, we have one character who is who is in general just physically superior, in this case being Booster Gold, but then like Static, we have Cable, who brings a lot of interesting things to the table, and it's really a matter of whether or not those interesting things are going to be able to overcome the physical advantages that in this case Booster Gold has. So I guess the best place to start is to really compare their physical advantages or their physical capabilities, and I'll say why I think that Booster Gold is just better. So in terms of overall strength, or I guess in terms of overall power output on the physical side, both of these characters have energy blasts, which aren't, the most powerful thing, but they are very destructive in their own rights. And in terms of just physical strength, I believe Booster Gold has this feat where he was able to, lift and carry a fully loaded plane, which could weigh fully loaded could weigh hundreds of tons, which is really impressive. I think that's more weight than we've actually seen Cable lift. In terms of how much they can actually physically output, though, both of them have their own feats and their own rights. I believe Booster Gold isn't portrayed to be one of the stronger characters, just in terms of fists. I know we get some power increases from his suit, but in general, and of course, Cable gets his bionic enhancements, which increases strength very, very much. It wouldn't surprise me if just because of the whole lifting strength thing that Booster Gold was physically stronger in terms of power output, especially since he's a DC character. But in terms of physical strength and power output, there's not a huge difference between these characters. I'd lean a little more towards Booster Gold, just comparing their feats. Regardless, though, I still think that, they're both around the same ballpark in terms of strength. And in terms of speed, it's a little bit of the same. Both of these characters are able to fly. Booster Gold's able to fly because he has his Legion ring, and Cable's able to fly because he's able to, telekinetically move himself through the air. And both of them are extremely fast on the ground, too. I believe one of Cable's really good feats is that, or maybe this isn't even one of his higher-end feats, but he was able to, move fast enough so that War Machine was, barely able to detect him. And we know how powerful War Machine is from, Genos versus War Machine. So both of them are really fast on the ground. If I had to guess, though, I'd probably say that, Booster Gold is probably faster in the air. I don't really have a lot of evidence to back that up, but again, he's a DC character with that whole speedster thing. It just feels like he's probably faster in the air. He probably has some sort of, ridiculous space traveling feat or something. And he's probably more agile as well. His suit was actually designed to be tough without limiting mobility, so I think he's definitely more agile. But again, even if he is technically faster in the air or more agile, it wouldn't be by a huge margin. And I believe they're around the same in terms of speed on the ground. When it comes to durability, though, that's really where Booster Gold shines. Like, that's really his biggest advantage in this fight, I feel. Because his durability is definitely on a grander scale in terms of, like, in comparison to his overall power output or strength. Like, from what I understand, he's able to take heavy attacks from characters that are, like, planetary plus in terms of their power output. Maybe he doesn't have the durability of a planet exactly, but he'd be around that ballpark. And he's got a force field. And this force field is so tough that when he trapped Doomsday in this force field, Doomsday had trouble breaking out of it. And this is when Doomsday is in the force field. So I don't know how much luck you're going to have actually getting through that force field, at least when it comes to physical means. So that's definitely the biggest thing that Booster Gold has going for him. Of course, Cable does have his own durability feats. He was able to take quite a few assaults from the Hulk and Red Hulk and other characters, like in that tier group, but he does eventually, I think, like, Booster Gold, in general, has better defenses against characters of those kinds of strength tiers. I think he's just able to take them more easily. So again, I guess it's not total outclassment, but I think Booster Gold's biggest advantage is durability. And in terms of the other physical stuff, they might be around the same ballpark, but I'd have to lean more towards Booster Gold in terms of just overall strength and speed. But again, not by a huge margin. But now we start looking more into Cable's abilities, or I guess we can finish off with Booster Gold. Like, obviously, Booster Gold has some other abilities. Like, both of them have time travel abilities, and I think Booster Gold has, like, some extra resistances to, like, certain types of energy and stuff like that. But nothing too big. Like, that's really as far as his versatility goes, at least from what I understand. I bet they're also going to use Skeets in this fight, but, like, probably, again, just to provide some comedic effect and everything like that. Doesn't really change much, at least to my understanding. But yeah, that'll definitely be interesting to see. But now let's talk more about Cable. This is one of those instances where I'm really starting to doubt, what they're going to use with Cable, because from what I did, like, I really don't like doing double predictions where I like to say, like, if they use this, then this character will win, or if they use this, then this character will win. But, with this one, it's really interesting because Cable, if you guys don't know, Cable is the son, his name is Nathan Summers, and he's the son of Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, and Madeline Pryor, which is a clone of Jean Grey. Yeah. So he's a very strong telepath, like, very, very strong. Able to, like, go with tug of war with characters like, Jean Grey, Professor Xavier, Onslaught, etc., etc. And those guys, if you know who those guys are, they don't joke around. So he's a really powerful telepath. However, he's usually not able to use all of his powers to the best of their abilities because he's fighting off this thing called the TO virus, which is basically saying, hey, I exist inside you, and you have to use most of your mental capabilities to try to fend me off from killing you, so you can't really use a lot of your mental powers. Now, he's had this virus cured and, like, reinstalled, or maybe that's not even the right word, but he's had it come and go before. I think most of the time he's portrayed as having it, but I think some of the times, I think even in more recent comics, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even right now, he actually doesn't have it anymore. And Death Battle keeps saying this thing where they like to use characters at their maximum potential. Even in All Might vs. Might Guy, they were saying how, they want to use, like, the best across their whole life. And because of that, I really do think that they are going to use Cable with all of his mental powers. I guess there's a chance they couldn't, but if they didn't do it, then I feel like, a lot of Cable fans would really be upset by that. I feel like they're trying to do as much justice to both of the characters as possible, so I think that they are going to use all of Cable's psychic powers. And I want to go over again just how powerful Cable is with these psychic powers. I believe Red Skull labeled him as, like, an Omega-level mutant, and he's also been labeled as an Omega-level telepath, or something like that. And Omega-level, when it comes to mutants, are supposedly, like, planetary level. Supposedly. Now, this could mean either your power output, like you could destroy a planet, or it can mean, like, the reach of your powers. In this case, I'd assume it would mean, like, he's able to, like, affect the minds of everyone on Earth. Now, again, I'm not sure if Cable can actually go that far, but it is a good tell of how powerful Cable is supposed to be with his telekinetic abilities, and just overall his psionic mind abilities, especially if he's comparable to characters like Professor X and Onslaught. Now, Booster Gold does actually have some sort of mental resistances. From what I understand, he was able to, like, I don't think he was able to fully resist it, but he was able to, like, resist against Maxwell Lord's mind control, and he was able to, like, completely take over the minds of, like, all the Justice League, whatever that means, you know? So that's definitely no easy feat, like, that's really impressive, but I feel like Cable is just on another level in terms of those powers. This is one of those things where I feel like, again, I want to do a double prediction here, even though I really don't want to, you know? Because I feel like if Cable has access to all of his powers, then I feel like he would be able to overtake Booster Gold's mental resistances. I feel like it just wouldn't be up to par with what Cable is capable of. But if he didn't have it, then I feel like, you know, Booster Gold might be able to pull through, especially considering his physical advantages. But because I'm analyzing it as if Cable has all of his abilities, then I do ultimately think that Cable's going to win this one. I know I haven't talked much about Cable yet, and again, it seems like if Booster Gold has the advantage in basically like strength, speed, and durability, how the heck does Cable stand up to that? Well, I'm going to tell you about it. So first of all, I want to go over the things that I feel really help him even the odds in terms of strength, speed, and durability. First, let's talk about speed. Again, he has his flight, so that's the whole maneuverability thing is definitely like around the same level for both of these characters. That's really good. But in terms of keeping up with Booster Gold's speed, especially with his speed in the air, he has a few things that could help with that. First of all, he has limited precognition, which is it's not really the same thing as a spider sense, of course, but, you know, it allows him to, like, kind of see events before they happen. And Death Battle does do this thing where they're like, you know, just because, you know, they can sense that something's coming doesn't mean that they can dodge it in time. And I fully accept that, but not Booster Gold, but Cable has more on top of that. He also has his I believe, his cybernetic eye, which allows him to see extremely fast-moving people come in. Like, it's able to detect, like, people, I believe, moving at around the speed of light. So that could definitely help track down Booster Gold. So then you have basically kind of like a spider sense, also kind of mixed with like Iron Man's tracking stuff. So you have that kind of mixed together. And even if those two things combined don't work, Cable also has his telekinetic teleportation. So that allows him to stay one step ahead of Booster Gold, even if his other abilities just aren't working for him. So that definitely helps him even the playing field in terms of speed, or possibly even surpass Booster Gold in terms of overall speed, especially if he does some mind manipulating and like really messes up Booster Gold, especially since their speed. I feel like Booster Gold didn't have a huge advantage there in terms of their base stuff, but that's just for speed. In terms of strength, he does have some other things. He's able to, like, at his best, he's able to use his psionic abilities to, like, actually increase his strength. He also has his bionic enhancements, which of course make him extremely strong, and he's also got his size manipulation. And when he's able to grow supersized, yeah, he can actually use that with his psionic abilities. He's able to, like, go toe-to-toe with Apocalypse, and you guys know that Apocalypse's strength is like there's no measure for it, hyperbole. But you know what I mean, right? Like, he's able to take on extremely strong characters, and that definitely takes him past the point in terms of Booster Gold's overall power output. And the same goes for his durability. And he does have some really powerful attacks, which I will get into later, again, more with the whole, like, listing off his psychic abilities. But let's keep going. So in terms of his durability, again, with Booster Gold's durability, he seems to just have the overall advantage. But then you have to think about that, that Cable also has a ridiculous healing factor, because he has a healing factor that was derived from Deadpool's, not as good as Deadpool's, but still derived from Deadpool's, and he just has his telekinetic healing and his, like, bionic repairing and everything like that. So it's really hard to put him down for good, or, like, you really need to, like, do a lot of damage all at once in one area in order to be able to, like, really, like, slow him down and put him down. And his stamina is also, like, ridiculous as well, so there's that. But on top of that stuff, he's able to, like, stay in the fight for a ridiculously long time. Definitely better healing factor and better stamina than Booster Gold. He also has a force field of his own, which is extremely durable. I think there was one, like, crazy thing that it was able to do. It was like, it did something on, like, a molecular level. It was able to, like, separate something from something. That's how, like, precise it is or whatever. I forget exactly what it was. Regardless, though, him being able to do that, even if the durability of the force field is not on the same level as Booster Gold's force field, because their durability in general seems to be better than each of their respective strength level, levels, I feel like I have a hard time believing that either of these characters would be able to get through each other's force fields by physical means. So I feel like they might as well be even in terms of durability, you know, at least when it comes to using the force fields. So Cable does have a number of ways to keep up with Booster Gold in terms of these areas, but when you really look at all of the mental abilities that Cable can do, you really start to see how imbalanced this starts to become. Because again, these characters seem pretty even at this point. Maybe even Booster Gold still having some advantages in certain areas. But when you start looking at the other advantages and the other abilities that Cable has, there's not really much that Booster Gold can do. The way I see it, Booster Gold and Cable have a lot of physical abilities that the other can protect themselves from, but Booster Gold, again, if I don't think his mental resistances reach out that much that he has like really good counters to Cable's mental stuff in the same way that Cable has really good counters to Booster Gold's physical stuff. Let's talk about this for a second. So he's got his general, like, he's got mind alteration. I believe he's got like memory wiping even. He can read minds, he can control minds, he can possess minds. He's got astral projection. That's a big one because that means he can go through a ton of Booster Gold's physical means and possibly even get through the force field. A lot of these abilities can get through the force field. He's also got mental illusions, he's got mental cloaking. I believe he can also like track minds or something. He can just like sense where minds are, which definitely doesn't mean Booster Gold's going to be able to hide or anything, whereas again, Cable can hide through his cloaking. He's got a ton of other abilities, definitely not enough for me to remember right now, but he's got like psionic spikes and psionic blasts, which are capable of like passing through physical objects, again, something like the force field. And again, even if it doesn't pass through the force field, Cable's got a force field too. They're on even playing field. But again, there's not really much that that Booster Gold can do, like when, you know, removing the force field from the equation, again, putting them on equal ground. And Cable definitely has a better chance of getting through the force field of Booster Gold than the other way around. So he's got that stuff against Psionic Blast. He can really mess with someone's mind, again, when he's at his maximum potential, which I do think they're going to analyze here. And then what else does Booster Gold, not Booster Gold, I keep messing up these names. What else does Cable have? Cable also has matter like manipulation or like matter messing up, you know what I mean, which he can use in order to mess up his opponents or like other objects. I don't think it's like straight transmutation or anything like that, but it's like it's really powerful, and he can also use that again to heal himself, as I mentioned before. So that's definitely something, if he, that I feel like is more powerful than anything either of these other anything that these characters have. You know, that's like the most powerful thing right off the bat that these characters can do. And he can also mess with like techno-organic, and I just think like technological things using his psychic abilities. And again, he can teleport, he can grow in size, as I mentioned before, all these other things, and he's got his own tech. So really, yeah, the way I see it, that overall Booster Gold might be physically stronger, but in terms of overall power output and in terms of the damage they can do to each other, I definitely think that Cable has the advantage. Just looking at all the counters that he has, again, with his speed, he's got his eye, he's got his precog, he's got his you know, his flying and his teleportation with durability and stuff. He's got his healing, he's got his size manipulation, and he's got his force fields, and he's got his cloaking as well, you know, in order to hide. In terms of strength, he's got his, you know, amplification, and again, his size changing, which puts him on the same level as Apocalypse, probably in terms of durability as well, too. So that, again, that's really that really feels like it puts things into perspective. There's a lot of things that, that Cable can really, like, keep up with, or maybe even surpass in terms of the physical categories. But in terms of the mental stuff, as soon as he starts messing with Booster Gold's mind to the point where he's not able to resist it, I really don't see Booster Gold walking out of this fight. I feel like, really, if they both, like, activate their force fields or something, you know, putting their durability up to the max, there's, first of all, Booster Gold doesn't have any sort of mental abilities, so we can't attack Cable. But Cable, I feel like his mental abilities are to the point where they could definitely surpass his mental resistances. So again, and Cable has even more abilities than that I'm just forgetting to mention. A lot of like telekinetic abilities as well. So there's that as well. Really, and then of course, like, Cable also has the experience advantage. He's been in, like, you know, the serious game longer, and if you know Cable and you know Booster Gold, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's that. He's also a much better hand-to-hand combatant than Booster Gold is, and he's just more versatile with his technology, especially if Booster Gold, if he's able to, like, manipulate Booster Gold's technology, like if he's able to manipulate Skeets or if he's able to manipulate his suit, then that loses Booster Gold loses his extra strength coming out of that, you know? So I feel like there's just, if he's able to attack his mind, if he's able to attack his suit, if he's able to keep up with him in every physical category and even surpass him in a couple, then I really don't see many things that Booster Gold can do. Like, I feel like, overall in terms of the mental stuff, Cable is just too powerful, he's too versatile, he's more intelligent, he's too good of a fighter, and he's just more experienced. Really, the only things I could see that Booster Gold, and he has more stamina as well. Overall, the things that I can see Booster Gold possibly having the advantage of is, again, speed, but again, like, he has ways to counter that, Cable. And in terms of durability, again, once they both activate their force fields, there's really not much of a difference, especially if he's able to surpass all of that just with his mental powers. So, ultimately, yeah, I think that Cable has more counters for Booster Gold's abilities, and I think that there's really nothing that Booster Gold can do to fire back against what Cable brings to the table at his maximum potential. But that's just me. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think Cable's going to win, or do you think Booster Gold's going to win? Let me know why down in the comments below, because I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, then please give this video a huge like. I always appreciate the likes. Leave in the comments down below anything you want to say. And if you guys could subscribe to my channel, that'd be so great. That would really help my channel out. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.